series of excursions all over to sites like this, which is Chichen Itza, to sites of Maya heritage, important museums. There's an overnight stay in a Maya village, okay, where students will interact with their peers, Yucatan youth, and also stay in the homes of traditional Maya homes, which is pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
I mean, there's so many things. There's a stargazing at an ancient observatory, sort of, Maya ruins that were used for astronomy. Lots of eating, cooking classes, dance classes, theater performances.
Yeah, and that's, I think, probably one of the big things for me that separates what we get to do in the Yucatan from what we can do in Europe or in Seoul, right? Is that we have so much. I mean, we're local. The flights are more affordable. The living is more affordable, and so we can really do a lot of experiences that we wouldn't typically be able to do, right? So we're like going to, again, you'll see not just sort of one ruin, one monument, right? It was, you were going on your own, maybe you would take time to see Chichen Itza, which is amazing and cool, but also, as we discovered in the process of going there, is like the most Disneylandish of them, right? It's like sort of been turned into an amusement park. And then we go to something like Uxmal, which is still a very well preserved and well restored ruin that then is a bit more, it's less populous. There are fewer concessions. There's not the sense that you're going to sort of like be able to jump on Pirates of the Caribbean at any minute. And then we go to Sinuchen, as Doug was mentioning, which is completely unrestored, because something that we learned over the course of this, and again, these are things that we didn't come with knowledge of. We like learned them organically as we were going through the program. But there are these varying levels of restoration that the Mexican federal government will do on ruins. And if you have a ruin on your property, you can't develop it at all unless you sort of allow the government to fully develop this, right? So we're going to see all of these sorts of layers of this history, one after the other, after the other, after the other, in, as Doug said, like really kind of nonstop, like really full kind of itinerary of these sorts of activities and places. And so it's a great opportunity to do like comparative study of these things in a new way. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and there's so many layers there, right? There's the kind of the thousands of year old Maya civilization, right? Which still really thrives. I mean, Yucatan is a place where the Maya language and Maya traditions are most alive today in Mesoamerica. Then there's the layer of colonial history. We'll go to, of course, Mérida is a colonial town, so we'll be really conscious of the monuments there and the architecture there, and the relationship of the Yucatecos to their colonial heritage. But also we visit a hacienda to see how the Spanish exploited the indigenous peoples when they came, one of the many ways. And then we'll also be thinking about sort of the Yucatan today as a site of aggressive tourist development, in places like Cancun, places like Tulum. And so we'll be thinking about sort of the legacies of colonialism in the in sort of, we'll be thinking about tourism as a form of neo-colonialism. And when we're not, so there's two things. There's all these excursions, and there's also the fun, right? You're close to the beaches.
Yeah.
There's tons of live music going on in Mérida. It's really a fun town.
It's like shocking. I want to say like shocking amounts of live music everywhere, and really like high quality. Like, I don't know, it was sort of the first night this is like one of my favorite things that happened. Like the first night, one of the first nights we were there, we were at some like kind of, not touristy, but like kind of like very central, like big open courtyard place. And then this like surf rock band, like 18-year-old kid, like your all's peers, these kids started playing hours, and it was the best thing I'd heard. I don't know. It's amazing. It's great. There's every kind of music at all times, and music in public squares as well, like big dance events and things like this that are happening like pretty much every night of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the cenotes, which are really unique to, I think there's maybe 10,000 throughout the year, 6,000 thousands throughout the peninsula. They were,
Sarah.
they're swimming. They're basically sinkholes that range in size and type.
Yeah.
That you basically can explore.
I'm not sure.
I don't think so. Would it be okay if we Googled one?
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
are you all familiar with what the cenotes look like at all? Okay, yes. These are worth. It's worth. Googling. It's like
There's
Swimming areas.
Yeah, you just
it's like
they're all a little bit different, but they're
they're all
fun.
different. They're incredible.
And they're all over.
Yeah.
Um,
And again, important cultural sites as well. So like and that's I want to say too the
sacred sites.
sacred sites. Yeah, absolutely. So like even in the things you'll be doing that, these issues that we're talking about educationally, like all drop back into the leisure time, and the leisure time falls into the educational piece of it. And our goal really is to make it a complete experience. Like that's what was different for me about this specific study abroad than others that I've done. What felt really cool to me is that we really were in a total like nonstop kind of conversation, even when we weren't learning, quote unquote, when we weren't like doing a class or weren't watching a movie or doing a language class. Still, every experience we have kind of like opens up different understandings of both your relationship to the place that you're in, and then also sort of more broadly Mexico's relationship and social relationship in the Western Hemisphere, which really we kind of think about a lot, but experiencing it and living and discussing it is very, very different. So
Yeah, and sort of, for our discussions, the kind of the intellectual footholds for our discussions will be theoretical texts we'll be reading, primary texts, historical documents we'll be reading that we'll sort of after each experience we have, we'll be kind of putting those in, putting what you're seeing, what you're doing every day in kind of conversation with histories of the region, and also some theoretical texts kind of concerning questions of colonialism, modernization, globalization,
indigeneity, like the big, so it's a mix of what we're aiming for is like a pretty even representation of like specific local histories, right? So like, if we're talking about the text, like art history articles and things of this nature, things that can really give us a good grounded sense of where we are, the histories that have happened, primary texts from the Yucatan, and then as Doug says, also broader frameworks, right? Because the idea isn't to sort of arrive in Mexico and pretend as if we're kind of like a new form of colonial analyst, right? Who's saying like, oh, I can understand Mexico in 4 weeks. I'll get this perfectly. The idea is rather to take this experience as a way to think about broader global trends, right? And to consider more. And again, for me, really, my background is in American studies. So for me, to consider the Americas as an entire political unit, right? To talk about the Western Hemisphere, not to talk about like the United States, and then to separate sort of everything out, but rather to view this in truly hemispheric. I'm even like I'm trying to like cradle the hemisphere in my arms, like a hemispheric sense,
Yeah, we just had I felt like, as I said, Rob and I have been I've done a lot of study abroad in different places, but I feel like this trip above all really all the students and Rob and I as well got really deep into it, right? It wasn't, it was a very powerful experience. I think, we really sort of engaged with what it meant to be Americans abroad, right? And some of the moral dilemmas there, and also, just I think just started to peel back some of the many layers to the agenda, many of which kind of remain unexplored, right? There's a whole one of our students, Sarah Park, who was there, who's herself Korean. Kind of there's actually a fascinating story of Korean immigration to Merida and to the area in the first decades of the 20th century. They came as basically indentured servants to work in the henequen plantations. Henequen is like a fibrous plant that's dried to make like a sisal rope, a rope that was used in for like tying down ships. It's been replaced by synthetic fibers, but it was a huge industry there. And so Koreans, impoverished at home, were willing to make the journey to basically work as debt slaves, on haciendas. But their descendants, are there today, and Sarah actually was able to sort of explore their history. So there's a lot of opportunity there for, I think, doing discoveries of your own, whether it's histories like this or whether it's sustainability.
That's a really, that's a really good, we were thinking about going to Merida versus going to just Rome, as a, for instance, is the last place. Before that, clearly an amazing place and wonderful for every reason that you've heard, and go if you decide to choose a different study abroad in Rome, I won't be hurt, right? Because it's an amazing city. But what I'll say is that what I witnessed in Merida with the students was that because the city is frankly just more manageable size wise, right? It's not a small city by any measure. I think it's 1 million people in the whole sort of area of it. But the area where we're staying is called Centro. It's like the historic colonial center of things. You'll see, as Doug mentioned, architectural remnants everywhere. You can see up here, Sarah. So you'll get a sense of being kind of almost in a walled zone, right? And it's super manageable. It's very easy to walk, pretty much the whole thing pretty quickly. Ubers are really inexpensive. And then this also means that there's an opportunity, as I was saying, Sarah discovered, because the place was sort of a manageable size, Sarah was able to discover these histories that would otherwise maybe get lost in the largeness of Rome or the largeness of Paris or wherever else you're thinking, considering going maybe. And the same can be said for even leisure activities. We had our student Brian and who else? A few of the students.
Rock climbing.
Yeah, they
had a little community of.
It was crazy. We found out it was rock climbing. Yeah, we found out towards the end of the trip, actually, they were one of our students really loves to do rock climbing on campus, and he was couldn't find a wall in a gym anywhere. So we found a Facebook group of a local Merida wall climbing club that was just in somebody's house, at somebody's home. It was, trust me, he didn't die. So just in case you're he's alive and well and is still climbing rocks. I hope his passion hasn't been. Okay, yeah, great. Ever see him climbing a rock though?
No.
I hope he's so, yeah. But he ended up building a real network of people in that city, right? When they met the students, as Doug mentioned, when we go to Yashina, and even before that, I think you'll meet students from local universities, right? Both as tour guides and then as peers in Yashina. And even from that, we ended up finding out, we were on our last night there, they were also meeting up with the students that they had been in Yashina, so there's really there's something about going to a place that has that manageable size to it that can allow you in the course of those 4.5 or however many weeks you choose to stay, right, can give you a real sense of actually having not lived there as a local, but definitely being a long-term resident, right? You can feel part of it in a way that I didn't feel part of Rome, even though I loved it. I didn't feel part of Seoul, even though I loved it. Just of the size.
Did you have a question before?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I thought it might be a great segue to talk about some of the accommodations.
Yeah, oh, great,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Well, you'll be, last summer, the students stayed in a fancy hotel
yeah.
with a pool and a fitness
Mhm.
room and catered breakfast every morning. This summer you're staying in tents. No, I'm just kidding. You're staying in a hotel as well. We're not sure if we're using the same hotel or a different one, but
It'll be equally fancy with a pool and breakfast,
Yeah.
and, yeah.
very central. And in terms of accommodations, I mean, Merida is the capital of the state of Yucatan. It has got high-end luxury malls. There's the biggest
Like a
Walmart you've
Walmart,
ever
yeah.
seen in your life is right downtown. So
Shocking.
everything you will, as whatever you're used to here, you can absolutely find in Merida. And much more cheaply too. So it really is. But I love it, I think that Merida really has this mix of sort of amenities you're used to, but also a fair amount of kind of culture shock too, right? Where there are things that are culturally very different that require adjustment, and it's part of the learning. But yeah, so it's a hotel. Some of the classes and some of the lectures are held at a fairly nearby
Mhm.
facility managed by our partner on the ground. IFSA, I'm not sure what that means.
Institute for Study Abroad.
Institute for
Institute for
Study
Study
Abroad,
Abroad.
that means,
Super
Yeah,
official
that
sounding,
makes
yeah.
sense.
Very
Um,
efficient spending, yeah,
but they have their offices and so
yeah.
and then we travel in various ways, sometimes by like a chartered bus,
Mhm.
or there a train that kind of spans the Yucatan is opening next week.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have a chance to take that train and talk about it because it's been very controversial.
Yeah.
The Maya train, which sounds like a Disney ride, but
It also sounds like a Disney, ride, yeah, and there's a hotel called Maya World, like they're talking more about Disney than you would expect, weirdly. I would say the other,
Yeah.
oh, I'm so sorry, was there a question? Yeah, oh, yeah.
Those excursions that like we would like do as a group or as part of the class, is that part of the cost of going or is that?
Absolutely.
It's part of the cost of going, yeah, it's all of the excursions are built in, so that's a really good question.
Yeah.
All are built in.
and meals each week too, not every meal, but
Yeah,
but
we're trying to
group
figure
meals.
out, yeah, but you will have several group meals over the course of the time, at least one a week, I think we can guarantee. Yeah, and then there's also breakfast in the morning that's included with the hotel and with the price of that. So it is it's a pretty good deal. And again, really, I don't like the other huge difference from, between this and say going to Europe is like the conversion rate. And so even eating out is like way more affordable than way more affordable than you would think. One thing that we're trying to figure out is having because you will be living in a hotel, that's amazing, and it's also living in a hotel for a month, right? So you may not be able to cook a lot, unless have you seen that Instagram guy who cooks in hotels? Yeah, you could do that, you could do the hot hotel chicken or whatever, but you might also get arrested, I don't know. So maybe don't, but so you will, you'll be eating out a lot, but it's super affordable. And again, as Doug's saying, it's the capital of the region. It's a fully bougied up city. You know what I mean?
Not just Taco Bell.
Yeah, no,
There's
yeah,
all kinds of different cuisines.
anything
there,
you could want. Yeah.
Vegan, you name it.
Yeah, actually some really good vegan restaurants, shockingly. The other cool thing I would say is other really cool thing is that in terms of medical care, if any of you have any thoughts or concerns about that, the hospital system, we figured it out. It's a little strange at first, not strange because of it's unfriendly or anything, just strange because you're in a country that you're maybe not used to being in. You need to go and a student's having a series of terrible headaches and what do you do about it? What we discovered is, first off, that around the corner from where we're staying, because we know the neighborhood we'll be staying in for sure. We know it will be in Centro, it's within a few block radius of the same place we stayed last year, whether it's that place or not, we're not sure. But there's a huge and very nice medical complex, and it's incredibly affordable. For everything. Insurance isn't taken, but you are offered insurance through IFSA if something major happens.
And we can talk more about
And
that.
yeah, Abby has all these details. Like I'm more talking about like just in terms of like quality of life. If you like if you feel bad, you have like quick access, and also like a huge ground support team between Doug and myself, folks from Honors, folks from IFSA to like help you navigate it. And also the pharmacies can prescribe like simple over the counter things. So if you've got like god awful allergies and you get like a terrible flare up, which is I think very likely happened to me, then you can get what you need without having like a crazy international.
Or snake bites or
Versus-
snakes.
If you get bitten by a snake, then no.
There's no snakes. There's actually no
Like,
bugs. I didn't have, there was, I felt like there were no mosquitoes.
Not in Merida, yeah.
I didn't even feel one. There are some like biting ants
You might get there some biting ants, but
Yeah.
that's part of
And-
life. That's good.
in the, you know, in the.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's really hot.
It is hot. This
Yeah.
is
If you
also
like, if
considered
you like hot, this is the
super
place for
hot.
you.
Yeah, super hot.
Um,
But again, refreshing. Like in a kind of like,
there's-
yeah.
And not like a swampy Philadelphia way.
Very tropical, but not in that swampy. No, yeah, very different. So. Well, do you have any questions about like the experience? I mean, I know Abby again has all of the like the hard details, and she'll be able to like.
And we can do a quick rundown before y'all leave.
Yeah, but do you have any questions for us about like the educational part of it, any of the excursions, anything like that?
snakes.
Any snake questions? Questions? Yeah,
How much freedom would we have to do our own thing?
a lot. Yeah, I mean, I think it's,
Everybody's issued an air tag.
we track you, but you
It
know,
will be tracked. but-
yeah, no, yeah, you
A
have,
lot.
because most of the time we don't have excursions.
Your
on-
nights are your own.
Your nights are your own, the excursions, like you could do things over weekends.
Yeah.
Easily, because we usually don't do things on Fridays anyway, or we do them earlier on Fridays. I'm trying to remember, my memory's dim, like at this point, but there's freedom. You can go places if you like, and if you feel comfortable doing so. I want to go to Cuba this time, because you can actually get to Cuba from Merida. I am not officially endorsed. This is just me. None of you are allowed to go. No, but I like, there are things to be, there's travel.
Yeah, and if this train is actually
Right,
up and
yeah,
running, that would make it a lot. I mean, because you're probably not old enough to rent a car. Which is how, you know, Rob and I have traveled.
so we
around.
travel, yeah.
You're not allowed as students.
Oh,
to
you're not
do
allowed.
Any vehicular rentals on study abroad programs, just to let you know.
Okay,
Except bicycles, which.
Yeah.
And there are great
Yeah.
bicycles, but you could take, but they are opening up a train that connects some of the major destinations and cities on the peninsula. Yes,
How many students are like expected to like, go? Like how many students would this allow to?
no more than 30
Yeah.
tops. We're sort of, our target is between, last summer we had 24.
24, yeah.
We're looking at between 24 and 30 tops this summer. Which really, you know, as Rob, the group was really coherent. You know, everybody, I'm really proud of everybody looking out for one another. You know, I think that size group really lends itself to the kind of discussions we were having when we met as a group. We weren't too big a group when we were on excursions, right? We were able to stick together. So,
Yeah.
but that's about the size we're looking at.
Yeah.
The size of like, you know, a seminar, you know, an honors
Mhm.
seminar, pretty much.
Yeah.
Or an IH seminar.
Or nice.
No motor?
No motor,
Boat?
no motor. That is for health and safety concerns.
Yeah.
But I can tell you some of the logistics about like what's covered for you, how to apply, how to pay for it. The great thing is if you're interested, you can apply today. You can go to this applicant login button on studyabroad.temple.edu. You can start an application by hitting the Find Program button and typing in Mexico. The program is called Summer in Mexico. And you can finish your entire application today. If your academic advisor completes their recommendation, that has to be done before you can submit it. The deadline for summer applications is February 15th, but if you in your application say that you would like to be automatically considered for a scholarship through our office, and you apply by the 1st of February, you get preferential like super awesome consideration for that scholarship. And we aim to notify you, if not immediately with your acceptance letter, soon after that. We are aiming to do that with your acceptance letter though. Right now, the students that have already applied, they're getting notice in just a bit, but everyone else, we aim to send notifications of scholarships with your acceptance letter. For all students, you are covered with travel insurance through our programs that covers the dates of the program only. So if you are planning to travel outside of those program dates, for example, to Cuba, you would not be covered under Temple's travel insurance. So you would have to seek your own individual coverage, however you choose to do so. We also have a health assistance provider called Helix. You can contact that assistance provider anytime between now and like when you come back. If you have questions about, hey, am I allowed to carry an amount of my prescription in this country? Do I have to get a primary care provider to provide insurance, or I'm sorry, medication on site? Are there pharmacies nearby? Questions like that. They're more than able to help you. And we can provide more information about that once we send out application decisions. We aim to send application decisions within a 2-week turnaround of when you hit the submit button. And I've been able to internally do that so far. So we aim to keep as close to that as possible. Let's see what else. Oh gosh, okay, sorry. The deadline just passed for our social media free flight thing. That was at 3 o'clock. So if you have not already, I'm sorry, but we were giving out 5 free flights through our social media. But you still do, if you would choose to select the yes automatic consideration for scholarship, we do look at that right away. What other questions do you have?
How much is the scholarship?
Great question. Up to $3,500. The yes or no option on your scholarship application says, yes, I would like, I give consent for you to look at my information from Student Financial Services. We take a look at the information connected to your account, and we'll make decisions based on that. Yeah. Great question about money though, because we have a finances tab here that includes cost considerations, including cost sheets for all of our programs, and a scholarship database. We offer scholarships through our office for Temple programs. However, we also list other organizations. 2 of them that I can point out to you here. You can go to our Temple Summer Programs cost considerations page, and we have them listed by whichever program you would like to do. These are from last year, and we are working on a website. As soon as that new website goes up, they will have the new estimated cost sheets for the summer. But the Honors History in Merida and Global Good in Merida are now the same program. Yeah. So you will want to just take a look at that. There is a breakdown of things that you will see on your billable costs, which include tuition and a program fee. We do ask students to have money set aside for non-billable costs like airfare, spending money for food, or anything that you would choose to purchase while you were abroad. So these things on top go on your bill, and the things on the bottom, we ask you to discuss with whoever needs to be discussed with regarding your finances, just about potential costs for the program. Let me go back to our website real quick. And in that same finances page, we have that scholarship database. It looks overwhelming at first. However, most of these, for example, the Aaron O'Connor Memorial Scholarship aligns with Temple University Education Abroad scholarships. When you apply for our internal scholarship, that's one of the sources of funding. The donors just like to see their name on the website. So we do that.
It's considerate of their feelings.
Yes, exactly. So we also have external providers for scholarships. For example, Diversity Abroad is a great one. They have lots of money. They love giving money away to students that are going abroad. Go apply for their money. Also, the Fund for Education Abroad is another big one. And that's on page 2 right here. And the amounts may differ depending on the term. So for summer scholarships, it might not necessarily be the amounts listed, but you'll want to go to their website and check it out if you're interested. They might have like a small essay portion. And we can also provide more guidance on if you have scholarship or financial questions. But essentially, you can apply today. We can help figure out what you need to do to pay for it, whether it's talking with Student Financial Services or what have you. We are here to support you from today all the way through. So if you have any questions at all, we also have daily walk-in hours from 3 to 4:30. So if you want to chat, come on back. What other questions do you have?
Would we have our own hotel rooms or are we sharing with another person?
You're sharing, yeah, you're sharing with one other person.
Okay.
Yeah, you would have a roommate, but it worked out well last time from what we understood. We try to, people get paired according to preference and tastes, all those things. So,
But the rooms are pretty big.
the rooms are big.
Yeah.
Yeah, is another piece of it.
Will the cost of the program vary based on like what hotel we end up in?
Well, that's what we're.
That's what we're trying to
that's
figure out. Like, we're trying
part of our
to
negotiations right now.
lower the cost by, yeah, so lower. Yeah,
Or-
is our.
I mean, there's not all. We don't have the option of every single hotel in the city to choose from because of
Right.
the size of the group and some of the, you know,
Mhm.
some of the requirements of a group of our size.
Yeah.
But we are trying to get the best deal. And hopefully that'll, you know, again, it's Rob and I, and the good people at Education Abroad are really focused on trying to keep the program costs as low as possible. But it really does, you know, whatever I think the program cost last year was about $3,000. Really was, we think, money well spent on just a ton of experiences, accommodations, food. It really goes a long way. And then whatever you're spending out of pocket is pretty low. I mean, whether you're talking about whether you're talking about food or drinking, which is a thing, you know, it's cheap there. And movies cost like 50 cents.
It's crazy.
Something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. We saw Into the Spider or Across the Spider-Verse while we were there, and it was
Transportation, super cheap. And also airfare is going to be less than if you were traveling to Europe, let's say.
way less. And they're also, you know, provided that the train Maya opens on schedule, which it seems like it will. There's also an option, a safe option now to fly into Cancun, which is an incredibly affordable.
Take the train.
And then to take the train from Cancun to Merida. Before it would have been, there's an auto bus. I mean, if any of you would be interested in visiting the Riviera Maya, it's like an auto bus and it's about 4 hours direct from Cancun to, or from Merida to Cancun. It's bumpy, as both of us know, because we drove it. So crazy, these like speed bumps or they're like full like car rattling speed bumps, really intense. But now with the train, you may theoretically, I don't want to say this is a definite, but it is very possible now to fly into Cancun, which is an incredibly affordable flight from the East Coast, like a crazy affordable flight, way cheaper than Merida, and to get down. So if you're in a position, if you're like thinking through this and you're like trying to do the math of like, where could I like do little shaves, XYZ place, whatever, one little shave that might be possible would be coming in through Cancun, which is, I don't want to cite exactly. I mean, when I looked, it was like way less than $800, like way less than $800. Yeah.
And we'll know more in the coming weeks
Yes.
when, if the
Exactly.
Maya train opens
Yeah.
as scheduled.
Once we
it's-
have, I'm sorry.
Oh,
go ahead.
no. go ahead.
Yeah, once we have confirmed cost considerations for this program, we would let you know.
Yeah,
As well as flight guidance for how, when, where
Yes.
we recommend flight.
yeah,
You can also fly into, I mean, in talking about, if you're thinking about extending your trip, Mexico City is
Yeah,
just a couple
Sarah,
hours flight
yeah.
from Merida, and that's an amazing,
yeah,
totally different experience of Mexico.
yeah.
If you want to do something really cool.
Yeah, because you all mentioned what interests you about studying in Mexico? Like, what about the idea of it? Yeah,
I went to Belize, like,
okay,
I think last year on a school trip.
yeah,
And like, it was also like Mayan ruins.
Yeah.
yes,
And like, when I saw that, like, I guess like this area has like a bunch of Mayan ruins, I like instantly wanted to go, because like, you know, like some people are like beach girlies. I'm like a Mayan ruins girl.
It's applause.
It was
Yeah,
super like local,
Amazing.
like we would spend days just like going to like local markets and like eating like fresh bananas or something. It was just like, I think like that local like connection with like the US is so like capitalist. Like I really like how like, you know,
Yeah.
it is.
yeah, it's very different,
It
like,
is very different.
it's very different, and like, and not, I mean, yeah, like, I agree with everything you sold it better than I could have. And there are lots and lots of ruins. Don't worry, I'm also a ruins person, like obsessive ruins person, I do so much.
Anyone else? What
Anyone else?
interests you
Yeah.
about Mexico? Why this program?
Spanish minor, and also I just want to go to Mexico very badly.
Nice, yeah, and that's, I mean, we had several Spanish majors and minors on the trip, several, I think, last.
They were incredibly helpful.
Incredibly helpful, so you have to, you're required, you actually don't have to.
Is he such?
Okay. Awesome.
We're gonna pay you.
Yes, he will be now be our translator. But it's, I mean, it's good for that, you know, and we also in the language classes, it's not it's not one of the, it's not, you know, in some study abroad you go and it's like an everyday language immersion sort of class, it's not that, like the instruction is in English, the lectures, however, are sometimes in Spanish, which is cool, like we have clearly translation going on, but so that would add a layer for you as well, like hearing academic Spanish is like a different beast. And then also the language classes will be divided according to skill level. So there'll be, you know, an advanced class that I think last year was doing like literary analysis. It was cool. Like it was really neat. They were like reading short stories and talking about them. And then there's an intermediary class. And then if you have no Spanish at all, there's or tiny little bit like me, like I went with, you know, a dim memory of 1990s Kentucky high school Spanish. And then I had to like quickly try and not sound like that. So if you're in that boat at all, then there's also a very beginner's level Spanish class. So there's a lot of opportunities for the language development piece as well.
I mean, it's a you know, it's a part of Mexico. You know, unlike Mexico City, not everybody speaks English
Yes,
too,
yeah,
which is pretty cool.
it was very cool.
I think you'll find that. I feel like certainly my passive understanding of Spanish,
Oh
like
my God.
increased exponentially just being there.
Yeah.
Like you can, like the lectures we were at, you know, I have high school Spanish too.
Yeah.
But you know, I could follow
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah,
Just because it is a pretty immersive experience.
super immersive.
And unlike going to Rome where, you know, everybody will speak to you just in English really.
By default, yeah.
So it's, you know, I think it's a great opportunity to learn no matter what level you're at. And we also study, I mean, the other really mind expanding thing was studying the Maya language.
Yeah.
Just which is incredibly difficult, you know, but we were able to learn some of and use
Yeah.
when we went to the village.
And we're expanding the number of Maya lessons now. We did one the last time, but it was so like it's just incredible and cool to learn, but also like students loved it. So we're adding more of those. So you might be able to hold like a 4-sentence conversation in Maya by the end, which is worth the price of admission alone, I think.
But the other thing about Yucatan is the Maya language is everywhere, right? It's
Yes.
in the place names, it's in the streets, so it, knowing how to pronounce it, understanding maybe some of the words or the roots is, will really kind of help you see more all the time when you're out. Since it really, I think what's really fascinating is the way that sort of, the Mayan heritage, the Maya language, and the Spanish colonial heritage really are coexisting in unusual, sometimes contradictory ways in the city and throughout the countryside.
And like, again, as part of that comparison, you can ask yourself, like, what would it look like if any given state, in the US were to dedicate to doing, and again, sort of Spanish is the language of law, it's the language of culture, it's everything is Spanish, right? You won't need to speak Maya to like do things in the city. But as Doug's saying, the signage is in both, right? The Spanish place names often just adapt the Maya names and things like this. And it's interesting to think like what that would look like in the US if some of these sort of more local efforts at language restoration that are happening in indigenous groups were to be accepted at the state level. It's sort of you kind of like it's those kinds of things that you get to sort of imagine in this context that are like so exciting, I think, critically and intellectually as well. In addition to all of the experience, like that, those sorts of what ifs for me are really what are making me excited to get back there as soon as possible.
All right, folks.
Yeah, Michelle, any other questions? Are there any questions from?
Not that I saw in the chat.
All
Let me
right.
just triple check.
Triple check the chat.
Nothing in the chat,
No
but
chat. Okay.
you're more than welcome to ask questions one-on-one.
Yep.
If we don't want to voice them as a group, that's totally fine. We're here for you. So we look forward to seeing your application soon.
Yeah, totally.
Wait, I have a question with the application process. So
Yes.
You said that you have to have like a recommendation letter from your academic advisor.
Correct.
I'm in the College of Liberal Arts, so I don't
Yes.
think there's like an assigned academic advisor. So like,
Right.
how would I go about?
You could inquire with your department. Usually they have a good idea.
I'm undeclared.
You're undeclared. Okay, that's totally fine. I think there's a website that I can link you to.
I've literally straight on emailed the CLA advisor, like asking them for an appointment. So literally
Like,
just
emailing the individual.
yeah, like
advisor?
if you search up like CLA advisors, because I'm in Fox and I'm considering double majoring, and like obviously I don't have any access to their advising portal, so I have just straight on like picked a random one.
There's
I
like a
just
CLA
read their
advising
bio. I
email.
was like, here for me. Emailed them, being like, hey, like, can you help me out with this?
Okay.
And they're really chill.
They know to expect a lot of our students around this time of year. So yeah, there's a general CLA advising, but you could also individually email on the CLA advising. Yes.
How many people usually apply?
It's
Or
in
target
flux.
today?
It's in flux. I would say we have 20 right now that are open.
Yeah.
So it is rolling admission. Like I said, a lot of many of those students might select a different program or something. Like folks open multiple apps just to see what they're able to get approved for. So we do get a wide number. So I would say apply early if you're dead set on this program, which why shouldn't you be, right? So
Only have
I'm
sleeping bags.
They're waiting for us.
I'm an early Americanist myself, so I'm so envious.
Oh, groovy. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Seriously?
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
I'm 19th century.
We'll
yeah.
we'll chat.
We'll
yeah.
chat. Yeah. Sure. That's awesome.
But yeah, experiences like this don't exist everywhere. Certainly not in my undergrad. So yeah, absolutely apply.
I was curious about like the course schedule, like how are classes usually organized? Like, is it any different from like what we're used to here?
It is the way, so since Doug and I we're